Hi, welcome to Archival Adventures for our 100th episode. Welcome in, everybody. Can you believe it has been more than 2 years? I mean, time-wise, 100 is 4 weeks less than 2 years of weeks, but 100 episodes. Let me say hello to the people in chat, just because I see that there are people here. So, good zone. I am Puddle Glum. It's great to see you. Hi, Elixir. Hi, Lord Portico. Hi, Key Squared. Hello, Philip. It's Hannah. Hannah, welcome. It's good to see everybody. Yeah, we have been doing this show for on a weekly basis for more than 2 years, with a couple of weeks that we missed in between, which is why it's only 100 episodes and not 104. Because 104 weeks is 2 years. Look at my math skills. Anyway, I got slightly delayed getting going because of just having to get the wires attached to my body. Wait, what previous statement? Nearly 2 years? Yeah, well, I mean 2 years in actual time. Did the music stop for everybody else? Hello? Music. It is still going. It's just, apparently not. You're hearing banjos. I'm getting nothing. That's very odd. Anyway, hi, Iron Trout. You were distracted by actual work and you're going to have to lurk. That is understandable. No, seriously, what happened? Because I had music and now I don't. Which, if that has to be, then that has to be. But today is the 100th episode, so it wouldn't be this stream without something going wrong with the technology, right? I don't understand. It was literally just playing in my ear 2 minutes ago. Let's try this. Okay, I hear this. Hopefully you hear that as well. Maybe it was just that song. But odd that you all could still hear it and I couldn't. Anyway, had a little bit of a delay getting started because getting the wires on my body was just frustratingly difficult today. So let's jump right in. 100 episodes! From the lowly start on January 6th, 2021, with a little stream about the Heron collection of speculative fiction, up through last week when we had our second part of our sub-series, the high energy physics series. Just amazing. Hard to get wires on, the banjos got in the way. Well, and then I almost forgot to turn the captions on. So then I was soon, and running across the room to turn on the captions. But what I have prepared for you today is a menu of selections from some of the most popular collections featured on the stream. I went back, I looked at the number of views across live views, VOD views, views of the highlight VOD, and views once the episode made it to YouTube. And the ones that had the most viewership, I have brought back. And some of them were some of the more logistically difficult episodes. So we're going to have fun. But before we dive into the actual archival content sharing. One final thing to look at, as always, for the 100th time on stream, Virginia Tech acknowledges that we live and work on the Tutelo and Monacan people's homeland, and we recognize their continued relationships with their lands and waterways. We further acknowledge that the Morrill Land Grant College Act of 1862 enabled the Commonwealth of Virginia to finance and found Virginia Tech through the forced removal of Native nations from their lands in Western territories. We understand that honoring Native peoples without explicit material commitments falls short of our institutional responsibilities. Through sustained, transparent, and meaningful engagement with the Tutelo and Monacan peoples and other Native nations, we commit to changing the trajectory of Virginia Tech's history by increasing Indigenous student, staff, and faculty recruitment and retention, diversifying course offerings, and meeting the growing needs of all Virginia tribes and supporting their sovereignty. And Virginia Tech acknowledges that its Blacksburg campus sits partly on land that was previously the site of the Smithfield and Solitude plantations, owned by members of the Preston family. Between the 1770s and the 1860s, the Prestons and other local white families that owned parcels of what became Virginia Tech also owned hundreds of enslaved people. We acknowledge that enslaved black people generated wealth that financed the predecessor institution to Virginia Tech, the Preston and Olin Institute, and they also worked on construction of its building. Not until 1953, however, was the first black student permitted to enroll. Through inclusive VT, the institutional and individual commitment to prosim, that I may serve, in the spirit of community, diversity, and excellence, we commit to advancing a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive community. So, let's talk about 100 episodes. For anybody who is just joining us, anybody who wandered in here lost and afraid, or anybody who happened to see that this was the 100th episode and decided to finally check us out, this show is a weekly program that I live broadcast from the library at Virginia Tech, featuring materials from special collections and university archives. And this show actually goes out to two channels. Twitch.tv/VTUL Studios, which is the University Libraries channel, and Twitch.tv/Rogan27, which is my personal channel. I am the Community Collections Archivist here at Virginia Tech, and yeah. What we're going to look at today, as I noticed, I don't know what these notifications are. Let me just reload this document. Okay, yeah, got it. But I want silly, absolutely silly. Here we go. I had it all set up, I really did. So here you can see the images that are gonna, these will actually be buttons. If you ever happen to actually physically stop by the library, they'll be like this. And if you happen to want one, the buttons that will actually be in the bowl won't say the 100. It'll just be one of the images with archival adventures on it. And they'll be in a bowl in the reading room if anybody wants one. But episode 100. If you follow the link in the Finding Aid message that was put into chat, it will bring you to this document. And I've selected a variety of things. We will not be able to look at everything, but I have curated and selected specific spots from some of the popular collections for us to look at. Some of these I'll try to go a little in depth. Some of them we're just going to glance at and maybe chat and then move on. But the popular episodes we will be revisiting are episodes 1/47, which was the speculative fiction, episode 16, Watercolors of Fungi, episode 18, The American Woods, episode 28, 29, 30, and 31, Traditional and Folk Medicine, Episodes 34-35, Marjorie, Rhodes, Townsend Papers. Episode 66, the BP Blasingame Papers. Episodes 75 and 94, the Melvin N. Melvin N. Hough Papers. It could be Gough, it could be Go, it could be Hough. There are multiple pronunciations, and we've never been able to confirm which is correct for this individual. So, but we liked the materials in the collection. Episode 76, the Byron Nelson Cooper Papers. Episode 84, the Vera Jansoni Architectural Collection. And episode 89, the American Eggboard Collection, which surprised me. But it had numbers on par with all those others. So apparently people liked it. Who knew? All right, so we're going to start, and I'm going to proceed in the order that they are on here, which means we'll be starting with the William J. Heron Speculative Fiction Collection, which is a bunch of materials that we have in special collections. So the description is here on screen. Between 1989 and 1994, Special Collections and University Archives acquired a significant collection of science fiction materials from William J. Heron, a private collector from North Carolina. There are more than 150 science fiction reference works, 11,000 paperback novels, and 4,500 issues from over 200 titles of British, Australian, and primarily American pulp magazines dating from the 1910s through the 1980s. These include the first published works of well-known science fiction and fantasy authors. I don't know that we're going to be seeing any of those first published works today. I don't know that I specifically pulled any of those, but we're going to start with some fun things. And the first item I have for you today is Volume 1, Number 2. We don't have Number 1. Volume 1, Number 2 of a science fiction magazine called Spacecraft. You can see the full title there is Stars Ain't Nothing But Spacecraft. It was $1.50 at the time that it was issued. And so there's a review of Pet Sematary, there's some original authored works. This is from the summer/fall of 1983. And now you want grits? As far as I can tell, this was, yes, okay, here it is. Space Grits. It's down here at the bottom. Let me shift a little so you all can see. Produced, edited, and published by the Charlotte Fantasy Writers Guild in Charlotte, North Carolina. So this one is relatively local to Virginia Tech. Fits within like the Appalachian region, which is one of our collecting areas. And I just, honestly, when I was glancing through looking at like what all's in the collection, it caught my eye because it's such a catchy little title, Space Grits, that I had to look at it. We've got a couple of issues. The story that I have chosen to read for you all today is It's Tough to Be an Ogre by Lisa W. Cantrell. So I will let you all take a look at the wonderful artwork here, signed S. Fox, while I read to you a little bit of a story by Lisa Cantrell, who, the author, Lisa Cantrell, is not best known for science fiction. Lisa Cantrell, best known as an author of horror and police procedural novels in the late 1980s. I don't know that this is going to work quite this way. I think I have to get the text on screen, or Yeah, nope, not gonna work. Because I can't see it. It's too far off to the side. So you get the text and the picture. It's fine. We'll figure it out live. It's tough to be an ogre these days. I mean, look already. You'd think there was some kind of, wait, sorry, I need to. I just need to take that one more time. It's tough to be an ogre these days. I mean, look already. You'd think I was some kind of bar joke the way you humans react. From titter to guffaw, you've run the gamut, to the point that for the past 2 days I've avoided approaching anyone. No one enjoys being laughed at. That's easy for you to say, Doctor, but put yourself in my place a minute. For an ogre, it's a disaster. Giggles just don't get it. An ogre is not supposed to be funny, for Christ's sake. Believe me, I do understand, Mr. Grunt. I should do voices. That would help. Just call me Grunt. All right, Grunt. As I was saying, I do understand your concern, but you must not let it be blown out of proportion. Granted, how others see one can be annoying, but it's how one sees oneself that really counts.
Well, I certainly don't see myself as humorous. Even for an ogre, I'm considered large and uglier than most. In fact, I once held the record for reducing aspiring heroes to quivering jellyfish, cringing in the dirt before me, begging for mercy. Of course, I gave none. Mercy is completely out of the question. I remember that much. My mere presence used to be quite enough, you know. Horrible. Petrified them to the spot in 3 seconds flat. And the aftermath, grisly. I just don't understand what happened. Doc, have I changed that much?
Perhaps you have, Grunt, but not in the way you mean. Nature limits one's ability to alter the outer self, but the inner self, there the possibilities abound.
Look, Doc, you gotta understand, appearance is one of the main things an ogre has going for him. I mean, who'd be afraid of an ogre who went around looking like little Lord Fauntleroy?
That is not the point, Grunt. People tend to see what they wish to see. If we want to change that, it is up to us to project the image we want seen. If we don't, then we shouldn't blame others for what they choose to see in us.
I'm not sure.
Grunt, your problem lies within you. We must work to bring it out into the open. Then and only then can it be dealt with and, hopefully, absolved.
Okay, Doc, whatever you say. That's why I'm here.
Good. A promising beginning. Why don't you stretch out on the floor there and make yourself more comfortable? That's right. Just next to the couch. Don't worry about the don't worry about the ooze. The carpet needs cleaning anyway. Shove those pieces of chair out of your way. Now relax. That's it. Now then, why don't you tell me what made you decide to seek the help of an analyst?
It was the snorkel.
Come again?
The SNORCLES. Save Nature's Oceans, Rivers, Creeks, Lakes, and Estuaries Society. Snorkels.
One of those groups. So how did you become involved with the snorkels?
Purely a chance encounter, Doc. After being evicted by the 4th hotel in as many days, furniture damage, you know, I set up temporary residence down by the river under a bridge. I was not particularly comfortable, the environment being more suited to the inelegance of a troll, but I was determined to make do for a time at least. The morning of my second day there, I awoke to find myself half buried in muck and scrummy water. Ugh, I was attempting to extricate myself from this most unpleasant situation when I suddenly noticed that I was being observed. I was ecstatic. Here was my audience, rooted to the bank, eyes wide, mouths agape. At least I thought, a proper response. But alas, I was wrong.
They laughed at you?
No, they didn't laugh. At least I was spared that ignominy.
Well,
They wanted my body.
I beg your pardon?
My body. They wanted it for their campaign, a sort of, look what your garbage, filth, and pollution to our waters is producing now example.
I see. And you didn't see yourself in the role of, poster ogre?
Look, Doc, it's not that I object to the connotation, monster from beneath the fetid water and all, and two, the exposure couldn't hurt. It's just that they wanted to use me. It's not supposed to work that way. Besides, I don't like radicals.
This is all very interesting, Grund. But you have not explained how all this brought you to me.
I was just coming to that, Doc. The snorkels refuse to accept the fact that I'm an ogre. It seems you humans simply no longer believe in ogres. In fact, there are precious few of you who seem to even know what an ogre is. Disgusting.
This is quite revealing. It is obvious you have built up a great deal of resentment due to your, shall we say, lack of notoriety?
Well, how would you like it if everyone thought you were an armadillo? You're a human. You want to be recognized as such.
And you wish to be recognized as an ogre?
Exactly. The snorkels insisted I was some sort of mutant product of the polluted environment, and set about discussing how best to apply my case to their cause. I heard one of them remark that my mind seemed equally polluted, a completely ignorant supposition, and that I would no doubt benefit from the services of an analyst. I agreed, though hardly for the same reasons. So here I am.
Yes, you certainly are.
It's a bloody wonder, though I glossed over the rough spots. You know, you're the 27th analyst I called before I could get past the switchboard operator. Everyone wants to be a comedian, and the trip to your office was an absolute nightmare. Couldn't get a cab, and when I attempted to catch a bus, the driver tried to run me down. I had to walk all the way here, and because I was ignoring the boorish behavior of other pedestrians by casting my eyes heavenward, I ran into a telephone pole. All in all, Doc, my sojourn in your fair city has been less than exemplary.
Now, Grunt, everyone has bad...
Just wait a minute, Doc. Let me give you a couple more examples of what I've been through. Take the night I arrived. I was nearing the outskirts of town and uncertain how to proceed when I spied a human sitting cross-legged on the ground, leaning up against a tree. I approached him and politely asked where I could find the nearest ogre. The young man took a deep drag on the cigarette he was holding, slowly blew out the smoke in little oscillating puffs, beamed up at me, and extended the cigarette. "Well, just take a toke and glow with the smoke. Above the trees, you'll float and float and float," said he. Rather bad poetry, thought I, but as he seemed inordinately pleased with his rhyme, I refrained from offering my opinion. Having no real wish to float, I declined his offer and restated my original question. This time the young man pointed over his shoulder at a path which led into the woods. "Follow the green and you'll soon make the scene," said he. "Thanks for the data, and I'll catch you later," said I, not to be outdone by an amateur, and took off in the direction he indicated. Soon I heard music. The volume swelled from loud to blast as I continued along the pathway. It was a bit raucous to suit my rural taste, but I was prepared for a certain degree of cultural diversity. I was not prepared for the scene which popped into view as I rounded a particularly obstructive tree. Naked humans of both sexes were cavorting with disgraceful abandon around a bonfire in the middle of the clearing. Believe me, Doc, such wantonness was quite a contrast to the more modest forms of amusement we forest dwellers indulge in. But here again, I was prepared to make concessions for my sophisticated city cousins, none of whom I saw as I quickly ogled the group. Being heard over the din was impossible, and eventually I was forced to pluck a dancer from the throng, intending to ask the whereabouts of the resident ogre. It was unnecessary, however. She gazed at me with glassy eyes, smiling all the while, and said,
come to join the orgy, man? Oh my, I can understand your disappointment. Yeah, and that was only the beginning. After quitting the group of merrymakers, I proceeded on into town to the increasing accompaniment of jeers, heckles, and snickerings from the locals. I was finally compelled to duck into a shop in order to escape their ignorant display of bigotry. Fortunately, the lady behind the counter was having better luck controlling herself than had the imbeciles outside, so I felt encouraged to query her. "Madam," said I, "can you possibly direct me to an ogre?" "Of course," she replied. "Step right this way. We have several varieties." I was elated, Doc, simply elated. This would more than make up for the inhospitability of my earlier reception, and already the fiasco in the woods was taking on comedic overtones and working itself up into a delightful after-dinner tale. But suddenly we stopped in the middle of a row of shelves, and the woman prattled something inane about ogres. Taking several funny-looking screwdrivers out of a box, she tried to hand them to me. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Augers. They were augers. Grund. A-U-G-E. Never mind. I get the picture. Doc, I've had about all I can stand. I've been directed to augers, augurs, agra, organs, okra, ogden, and akron. An old fool even thought I was a demo for the Orkin man. I'm telling you, Doc, something's got to be done. All right. Grund, calm down. You're turning green. I think I understand the basis of your problem, and I believe I can help you. Oh, Doc, if only you can. I still have one whole pouch of gold left. It's yours, all of it. If only you help me, I'll do anything you say, anything at all. It's really quite simple, Grund. Hear me out. I believe I can show you exactly where your problem lies. As I expected, it is with you, not those around you as you would like to believe. Look, Doc, there's no call to be insulting. I'm willing to accept my part in the blame, if someone will just tell me what it is. Grund, my dear fellow, the reason others do not treat you like an ogre is that you do not act like an ogre. What? That's hogwash. Absolute, utter, unmitigated hogwash. I am an ogre. How else would I act but like an ogre? Listen to me, Grund. I did a bit of research on ogres before you came in today. And I can tell you, you are in no way like any ogre I read about. I bet you had a tough time finding anything written about ogres, didn't you? True, I found very little. I thought not. Plenty of giants, I bet. And gnomes and trolls and icky little elves, but ogres? Oh, no. That's beside the point. What I did find was enough to support my contention that you act quite un-ogreish. Please elucidate. Well, first of all, you don't talk like an ogre. More like a graduate student. Well, I read a lot when things got quiet around the forest. Then there's the matter of your fastidiousness. Inelegance of a troll, indeed. Trolls are placed several steps above ogres. Not on my ladder! Revolting, hairy little creatures. And ogres are supposed to be stupid, dull, oafish. Evolution! Look, Grund, do you or do you not want to behave like an ogre? I'm thinking. I haven't got all day for this, you know. Oh, very well then. I suppose I do want to act ogreish. That's why I came here after all. It was so boring in the forest. Nothing to do but sleep and read. It's been so many years. I guess I just forgot, and there was nobody around anymore to tell me. Will you tell me, Doc? I do want to know. I want to go back to the old ways. Of course I'll tell you, Grund, though perhaps it might be better if you read it yourself. Here, it's all in this book. There's even a picture. Remarkably like you, I'd say. Really? Yes, I do see the resemblance. Ha! Ugly-looking brute, isn't he? And you think I favor him? I'm pleased, Doc. Really pleased. Oh, what's this? Keen sense of smell. Yes, I've noticed that. Usually snores loudly. I must own up to that also. It played a key role in my third eviction. Can't say I like these derogatory remarks about ogre's intellect. Usually fall easy prey to the witty hero indeed. Well, they have yet to cross this ogre's path. Uses sword and club with proficiency. Drinks wine in overgenerous amounts. Eats, what's this? Preferably broiled with toast? I believe we can dispense with the details of the more gruesome dietary predilections of your species.
Let's don't.
Yes, well, I really must bring our little session to an end. Time for my next, grunt. The door is over there.
Why, Doctor, is that fear I see in your eyes?
No.
Then why are you backing up?
Just opening the window here. Help! Help!
Come on, Doctor. Come away from the window. You might fall. You know, I believe your cure is working. I'm beginning to remember how it used to be. Yes, that look brings it all back. And to think I had forgotten, I don't suppose you have a broiler tucked away around somewhere?
No! Keep away from me!
Pity. Guess I'll just have to make do with the toast.
Stay away from me! Stay!
Cheers.
So, It's Tough to Be an Ogre from issue 2 of the speculative fiction magazine Spacecraft, which 1983, and I thought it was just an absolutely hilarious story. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Key squared. But after reading it, this sort of like one-on-one conversation between the ogre and his therapist, I'm not surprised to then later discover that the author of this story, her published novels that she's known for were police procedurals. Because I could see the bones of a police procedural there. So I do have, I have this magazine. We can always come back to it. But I should proceed. Next, I've pulled 2 issues of the same magazine, except not the same magazine. So, this is the Magazine of Fantasy and the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, which are the same publication with 2 different titles. This is issue 1 of the Magazine of Fantasy and issue 2 of the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, because they changed the name of the magazine between the first issue and the second issue. So, this magazine is still in publication today. The first issue here is fall of 1949. And it is still a monthly magazine. You can get a subscription to it. This show is in no way sponsored by it. I just know because I used to have a subscription to the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction. They even offer like ebook subscriptions, and just like they've evolved with the times. They're one of the better known. Originally, it was founded by Lawrence Spivak, an American publisher and journalist best known as co-founder, producer, and host of Meet the Press. Really, the only reason I grabbed the first issue was just to point out that the magazine was the Magazine of Fantasy in its first issue, and when they issued their second issue, they added "and Science Fiction" to the name. The second issue, though, there is a story in. A rather well-known story that I thought I might read. It is The Gnurrs Come from the Voodvork Out by R. Bretnor. Reginald Bretnor, science fiction author known for stories with a whimsical storyline, and considering that we quite often have a community join us on stream known as the Whimsies. And the title just sounded fun. I thought, why not? So, we're definitely starting today with story time. I don't know how long this story is, and I just unplugged the sound from my ears. So I don't know how long it is. So we may not read the whole thing because I definitely want to get to some of the other stuffs, but I'll at least get it started because, yeah, it's too long for me to read the whole thing. But we'll read the beginning of it. The Gnurrs come from the Voodvork out. When Papa Schimmelhorn heard about the war in Babovia, he bought a box lunch, wrapped his secret weapon in brown paper, and took the first bus straight to Washington. He showed up at the main gate of the Secret Weapons Bureau shortly before midday, complete with box lunch, beard, and bassoon. That's right, bassoon. He had unwrapped his secret weapon. It looked like a bassoon. The difference didn't show. Corporal Jerry Colliver, on duty at the gate, didn't know there was a difference. All he knew was that the Secret Weapons Bureau was a mock-up, put there to keep the crackpots out of everybody's hair, and that it was a lousy detail, and that there was the whole afternoon to go before his date with Katie. "Good morning, soldier boy," bellowed Papa Schimmelhorn. Let's see. Corporal Colliver winked at the two PFCs who were sunning themselves with him on the guardhouse steps. "Come back, Christmas Santa," he said. We're closed for inventory." "Oh, what?" "Come back, Christmas Santa," he said. We're closed for inventory." I did not grasp in my brain who that was directed at and who was speaking, but it was the corporal talking to Papa Schimmelhorn. "No," Papa Schimmelhorn was annoyed. I cannot stay so long from work. Also, I have a secret weapon. Let me in." The corporal shrugged. Orders were orders. Crazy or not, you had to let him in. He reached back and pressed the loony button to alert the psychos just in case. I did not know that this was going to have so much ableist language with regard to mental health. So we'll just say historical terms. Then, keys jingling, he walked up to the gate. "A secret weapon, huh?" he said, unlocking it. "Guess you'll have the war all won and over in a week." "A week?" Papa Schimmelhorn roared with laughter. "Soldier boy, you wait. It is over in 2 days. I am a genius." As he stepped through, Corporal Colliver remembered regulations and asked him sternly if he had any explosives on or about his person. "Oh, it is not necessary to have explosives to win a war. So all right, you search me." The corporal searched him. He searched the box lunch, which contained 1 deviled egg, 2 pressed ham sandwiches, and an apple. He examined the bassoon, shaking it and peering down it to make sure it was empty. "Okay, Pop," he said when he had finished. "You can go on in, but you better leave your flute here." "It is not a flute," Papa Schimmelhorn corrected him. "It is a Gnurrpfeife, and I must take it because it is my secret weapon." The corporal, who had been looking forward to an hour or so of trying to tootle coming through the rye, shrugged philosophically. Barney, he said to one of the PFCs, "Take this guy to Section 7. As the soldier went off with Papa Schimmelhorn in tow, he pressed the loony button twice more just for luck. "Don't it beat all," he remarked. Corporal Colliver, of course, didn't know that Papa Schimmelhorn had spoken only gospel truth. He didn't know that Papa Schimmelhorn really was a genius, or that the Gnurrs would end the war in 2 days, or that Papa Schimmelhorn would win it. I want to keep going, but I also know that we've spent more time than I can reasonably allow on spec fiction so far today, and we've had one complete story. So I'm going to leave it there, after what is a great introduction to what promises to be a really good story from the 1950s. Spring of 50, I think. The other item that I brought is the first issue of Asimov's science fiction magazine, which is also a very, very well-known, very prominent science fiction magazine. I had marked in here to potentially read Asimov's foreword to the magazine, which talks about why he created the magazine. I can do that if people request it, but for now, I'm actually going to move us forward to episode 16, Watercolors of Fungi. Waters of Fungi. That's a completely different thing. Quite often, waters of fungi is poison. So some of you might recall this wonderful little book that we know basically nothing about. Circa 1840s, we don't even know the actual date when this book was made. I don't know which side is the top. We'll figure it out. Illustrations of 50 fungi or algae found in England, perhaps a catalog of a collection. The illustrations are accompanied by brief descriptions and captions. And it is amazing. It is wondrous to behold. I've marked 2 and figured out what they say for today, so that I don't stumble over trying to read them and get bogged down, which, let's face it, has happened a lot on this stream. But I'm trying to flow more quickly today. As you can see, the spine on this book. This book is not in the greatest of condition. It does not have really a spine anymore, which is great for illustrating, like, hey, look, you know, on those hardcovers, the stitching, like where you see like bumps across it, in old ones, there's actual like thread that was holding the leaves together. These are also stitched with smaller thread. And each of these bundles is then stacked and stitched together more generally, and the binding is put over it. This item really could stand to see a conservator and have some restoration work done, but that doesn't mean I can't show it off gently. So I have selected as the first of the fungi that we shall take a glance at today, this one, that many of you are probably already familiar with, and that likes to make prominent appearance in things like video games. Just some absolutely gorgeous art. These are hand-done illustrations from the 1840s in this book. And this is Agaricus muscarius, according to the description. Let's see if I can. Please, may I make the font bigger? Thanks. Yeah, he's pretty. Sneaks back in after work-related distraction. Welcome back, Alexi. Also, I've been reading for quite some time, so I should probably take a sip of water. But yeah, there's a whole episode where all we do is explore this book. It's episode 16. Agaricus muscarius. This plant consists of more. So I'm reading. This is the text that is here. That was not easy to read. I can zoom in on it in a second, but it was not easy to read. This plant consists of more parts than any other agaric is know of, having a vulva, annulus, and stipes. Linnaeus says that this is a most poisonous agaric, and that a decoction of it in milk will destroy flies, whence its name. He also recommends it as destructive of the Simix letularine. It is found of various countries. 286 English fungi. Agaricus muscarius, cryptogamia fungi. So Simix letularine, which is mentioned, is it's one form of the common bedbug. So it's useful in creating a poison to kill flies and bedbugs. And what was the other thing that was sticking out to me? I have the name. In English, it is known as fly agaric. I was like, I know there was something I was going to say. It's fly agaric is the name of it in English. And then, so if we zoom in, I can show you what the text looks like here. It is very, very slanted, very faint. It was not easy to read. It was not easy to figure out what the words were, especially because the author, and I had to look at a couple of entries to refresh my memory and to figure this out. The author doesn't write in perfect English. So, like, when any other agaric is know of, looking at the letter forms, that is very clearly the letters that are written there, but it's slightly broken English. And so that made it just a little bit more of a challenge to figure out what it said. And then, of course, we have the actual illustration itself, which is just breathtakingly gorgeous. But this round cap, this red cap mushroom with the frills on the underside and the white spots all over the top is depicted in just about every video game. If there are mushrooms in a video game, this is the first one you see, and it's always poisonous. So it has a place in the public consciousness, and so as I was flipping through looking for a mushroom to look at today, this one jumped out at me, and I thought it was worth taking a gander. That said, I also picked a second one. So let us see. Mushroom number 2 for the 100th episode of Archival Adventures. Hello, welcome back, Lord Portico. I have another mushroom. Your sticky notes that you're using right now have a red mushroom with white spots on them. It is popular to look at, and apparently, while poisonous, quite helpful, because A decoction in milk can be used to kill flies and to kill bed bugs. So while it's poisonous, it is also useful. I will indeed hydrate, Lord Portico. Thank you. This second one, I think they're classing as an algae with regard to, like, why is it in this book when the description of the book says 50 fungi or algae? And this one, people might be familiar with and might know it by its English name. I am going to read the text that is here. Oh, Elixir, thank you so much. 100 bits for 100 episodes. Wow. It's been a fun ride. Yeah, I'm still trying. Oh gosh, it's the rules, Lord Portico. Thank you. I am actively working on trying to, like, write a paper about having done this show, which is less enjoyable than doing the show. So I'm going to start here. I'll read down, and including the caption on the second page. Ophioglossum vulgatum. This singular vegetable is by no means uncommon in boggy meadows, flowering in May or June. An infusion of its leaves in olive oil is famous for curing wounds, and is of so beautiful a green that many have supposed it made of verdigris. 108, English Botany. Ophioglossum vulgatum, adder's tongue, Cryptogamia felicis. I don't know. I suspect that it may be. I'm not certain, but I suspect we may have actually looked at this one during episode 16 as well. But it caught my eye, and it was really pretty. And what I noticed about it specifically was, hey, this is adder's tongue. I've heard of adder's tongue. And so you may have heard of adder's tongue too. This one doesn't really say what it's, like, necessarily good for, but apparently adder's tongue in some olive oil is supposed to be good at curing wounds. And it is a very, very green color. One of the things that I ran across while I was trying to read what it says is here in the title. Ophioglossum vulgatum. They use the long S. I can get a pointy thing. I need a pointy thing that won't put marks on the page. So right above my eraser there, it's a long S, which quite often people mistake for the letter F in older writing, older English writing in particular, but here it is in cursive, and it is, I don't know that I've ever actually seen it in cursive except here. When you see it in print, it looks like a lowercase f, but the line across the middle is only on the left side, and it extends below the line. Like, so the letter itself has a tail but beneath the level of the writing, the way that a G or a Y or something like that would. And then the cross that generally goes across a printed letter F is only the left side of that cross, the right side of that cross is not there. And that is a long S. And it just makes the same sound that two S's in a row would make. And so what I found interesting on this entry is here in the title, the author has written the long S. But in the caption for the illustration, he's written two lowercase s's. And so I just thought, they're right on facing pages, and it's written two different ways, but they're both valid ways at the time of writing the name of this plant. And I just found that to be interesting. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I may have commented previously on things and been like, oh, this might be my favorite thing in our collections, but this may actually be my favorite item in our collections, just hands down. I love this book. I wish we knew who had done these illustrations. I wish we knew more about it and why it was made, and because it is gorgeous and it is on par with anything that like Audubon did for like cataloging birds. It's just a wonder, and while like it's sort of falling apart, it doesn't, without the story that goes with it, it's harder. It's not impossible, and definitely not super hard, but harder to justify the cost of having it restored, because without the story, like, it doesn't get used a lot. It doesn't get pulled out and consulted for reference or anything like that, which would be the criteria that we would use to say, oh, should we restore this? If it got used a lot, then absolutely this would be right up there for restoration. As it is, it doesn't get used a lot, but it's absolutely gorgeous, and yeah, it's probably my favorite item in the collection. So I was very happy to see that viewership numbers for the episodes also liked this one, meaning that it could be part of episode 100. I'm going to set it aside though, and of course, since it's falling apart, there's little pieces of book that are falling off of it now. The next one is episode 18, which was Romeyn Hough's The American Woods. No, Criddle. Yeah. Hi, Retro Gamer. How are you? For this one, I have the light box, which, of course, I have this frame that I had made for it. Like, this is just, hello, bright light. Oh, I completely forgot that it does that. But I have the frame. The frame, this is the frame that I cut for when we were going to look at, I don't have TikTok at all, Retro Gamer. I honestly, I know it exists, but I don't even have an account to watch things. So this is the frame that I made when we were looking at the glass slide collection. So it's not perfectly designed for looking at these books, but there's a reason that this light box is something that I pulled out. It looks directly into the light box. Ow. Go towards the light. We're gonna put that aside for now, because I'm just gonna I have parts 1 and 3. So The American Woods, subtitled Exhibited by Actual Specimens and with Copious Explanatory Text, by Romeyn Hough, H-O-U-G-H. The first volume of American Woods, focusing upon trees of Hough, I don't know if it's Hough, 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 I don't know how this one is pronounced either, of Hough's native New York, was available by prescription, Hey, I've got a prescription for a book for you. Was available by subscription for $5. Hough had originally planned to publish 15 volumes, which would include samples of all of the important trees found in North America. But he died in 1924 before the full set was completed. A final 14th volume was published in 1928 using samples and notes made by Hough that were compiled by his daughter, Marjorie Galloway Hough. That summary is from the Wikipedia entry about Romeyn B. Hough. So I pulled parts 1 and 3. And if you visit the finding aid, there is a listing there of all of the trees that are in these 2 volumes. And if you want to see one, let me know, and I will share it. But I wanted to give a look at sort of what the volumes that they're in looks like. We did this, of course, when we looked at this collection back in 2021, but they're made to look like hardcover books. This, however, is actually a hard case. It's actually harder and more stiff than the cover of a hardback book, and it has this clasp to hold in what's essentially like a little drawer that slides out. We looked at a bunch of stuff in the first issue last time, if I remember correctly. I'm going to set that one aside for now, and I am going to pull out volume 3. And the reason I have a light box, actually, I should hold off on the light box. I'm getting excited because I want to show the things because it's fun and it's interesting, and I love these volumes. There's a reason they're popular. They're not exactly hard to find. You can probably find one in a library near you, but they are neat. So, having slid the insert out of the box, we're then left with what looks similar to a hardcover book, except the pages, they're abnormally thick. What's going on? Well, if you open it, it's not attached. It's just a stack of individual things. There's a booklet, like a softcover book at the front, and this softcover book includes information about trees. But the main point of The American Woods by Romeyn Hough is these pages, which are actual slices of trees. And they are thin enough so that you can hold them up to the light and like look through them, and like, so that's why I have the light box, so that I can light them from behind so you can see some of the detail of, or see what they look like lit up, because I know lighting them from the back didn't always give us the best view of them, but it was worth still doing. So, I don't know which one I should show off. Hi, just here for coffee. You wouldn't have expected it? That the pages of the book are actual slices of trees? Yeah. How about, we'll start with number 55, Prunus Pennsylvania, which is the wild red cherry, pigeon cherry, pin cherry, or bird cherry. So we'll look at some cherry tree. And I will read a little bit from the copious explanatory text. Oh, there's a dedication in here to my mother. As a partial compensation for the hours of anxiety occasioned her while in boyhood quest after bird or flower, this volume is most devotedly dedicated. Preface to the series. The necessity of more generally diffused information concerning the variety and importance of our forest trees is justification enough for the appearance of this work, especially at this day, when the demands of forestry in this country are constantly more and more keenly felt. The work was undertaken at the suggestion of my father, whose intense interest in forestry and a kindred taste at once gave me inspiration to the work. It was entered upon with the expectation of his valuable companionship and counsel during its progress, but alas, that I was destined to have only at the outset, and while I was then left ever to mourn the loss of a kind father, companion, and teacher, the reader must fail to find in these pages that value and finish which his mind would have given them. It's very flowery language, but basically saying, I think people studying forestry need to know more about America's trees. So, let me see what I can find on number 55. Prunus Pennsylvanica. Well, would ya take a look at that. He squared, I think you deserve some pun points. Thank you for the wordplay. We hit that song again, where suddenly I have no sound in my ears. I'm going to advance to the next song. I don't even see it in my playlist, so why? Very odd. Very, very odd. Well, would you look at that? Yeah, to be frank, after you back read, you realized just here for coffee. Yes. Oh, I didn't even notice that, Justy. I wouldn't have expected that. There are definitely more pun points needed in chat. I didn't even notice the spelling. Thank you for pointing it out, Key Squared. So, wild red cherry, pigeon cherry, pin cherry, or bird cherry. Specific characters: leaves, oblong, lanceolate. Yes, portico, yes. With tapering point, 2 to 5 inches long, finely and sharply glandular serrate, thin, shining, green, and smooth both sides. Flowers, white in corymbose umbels, with long pedicels from lateral buds and appearing with the leaves. I have absolutely no idea what corymbose umbels with long pedicels means. Fruit, July through August, a very small subglobose drupe, smooth, light red, with thin, sour flesh, and smooth, globular stone. Oh yes, actually I forgot. we'll do that in a second, because I just got reminded. Habitat. Canada and northeastern United States, as far north as the shores of Hudson Bay, westward to Iowa, and the mountains of Colorado, and southward along the Allegheny Mountains to North Carolina. It grows in dry, rocky soil, everywhere quickly appearing from seeds scattered by the birds, on tracts recently burned over by forest fires. Physical properties: wood, light, moderately soft, close-grained, and a light brown color with thin, lighter sap wood. Specific gravity: 0.5023. Percentage of ash: 0.40. Relative approximate fuel value: 0.5003. Resistance to longitudinal pressure: 407. I don't know what most of these mean. And yeah, pie, also an important cherry tree product. Resistance to indentation: 103. Weight of a cubic foot in pounds: 31.30 pounds. A cherry tree weighs 31.30 pounds per cubic foot. Uses. Too small a tree to be of commercial value, and the wood is little used. Medicinal properties. I will note, do not take medical advice from this stream. In domestic practice, the bark of this tree, which is very bitter, is used, like that of the black cherry, as a tonic in the form of an infusion with cider. Anyway, so we've got a transverse section of a cherry tree, which is what you've all been seeing here lit up. Below that is a radial section of cherry tree. And at the bottom is a tangential section of cherry tree. I don't know how reddish they appear actually on stream. Especially if the advice tells you to eat a tree. So I'm uncertain. Like, when they're lit from behind in person, they definitely have a bit of like a ginger hair sort of tone to them. Like a natural like red, or what we call red, but is sort of more orangish. It's definitely a brown still, but it has a bit of redness to it. Yeah. So if you're in the finding aid link for today and you see a tree in part 1 or part 3 that you would like me to stick up here and we can look at, do let me know. I'm curious what honestly, I want to look at all of them, but we definitely don't have time for that. I think I'm going to look at the persimmon. Possibly, if I can find it fairly quickly. But if anybody has, there's another cherry in here. So we're just going to like toss in the other cherry here. Oxheart cherry or English cherry. Pear. Dotted fruited thorn or thorn apple. Juneberry. Sweet gum. Persimmon. We'll look at persimmon here in just a second. Oh boy. I'm just seeing what time it is and I'm like, it's fine. I've never gotten through everything I pulled for a stream. Diospyros virginiana, persimmon, or date plum. And it's just, they're just these like paper-thin slices of trees so that you can see the different forms of what they're like on the inside. It's just really spectacular. So like a lot of the other subscription books of the time would have been illustrations of flora or fauna. But instead of illustrations, they have actual samples of the wood, cut paper thin so that you can shine a light through them to really see like what they're like. It's just a truly amazing work. And like I said, not terribly uncommon. So if you look for the title, The American Woods, by Romeyn Hough, H-O-U-G-H, it's R-O-M-Y-N. There's a good chance that a library near you has a copy if you are interested in taking a look. There is no reason whatsoever why I picked a cherry tree to show off. Some people in chat probably know that cherry trees been on my brain for a couple of weeks. Next up, traditional and folk medicine. We did 4 episodes. We did an entire month on patent medicine, traditional, and folk medicine. So, some of those episodes were quite popular, some of them less so. I don't really know what caused the difference, but I do have a receipt and home remedy manuscript book, but it is not the same one that I shared previously when we were looking at this topic, because this one we just got. It is called the English Receipt and Home Remedy Manuscript Book, and I have marked a couple of spots for us to look at a couple of home remedies or recipes for medicinal things. I don't have any patent medicine things with me here today. None of the snake oil stuff. We did have a lot of fun looking at the snake oil stuff. But what I do have is this English receipt and home remedy book dating from 1665 to 1704. The contents include food recipes for various wines, desserts, and meals, as well as treatment for agues, pains, and various illnesses. Before I read to you from this book, I'm just going to note once again, do not take medical advice from this stream. Do not take anything of a medicinal nature printed in any of the works shared here as accurate. If you need medical assistance, please consult a qualified medical professional. We may have a digital exhibit coming later this spring relating to home remedies. I did not know this, Alexi. That is excellent. That's exciting. Oh, and we have, speaking of cherry trees, hi, 16-bit Eric. Welcome in, Whimsies. You just missed me sharing pieces of literal cherry tree here on stream. But welcome in. I am Anthony Wright Day Hernandez, otherwise known on the internet as Rogan27, and this is Archival Adventures, a show that I do weekly for from the Special Collections and University Archives here at Virginia Tech, streaming to both twitch.tv/VTUL Studios and twitch.tv/Rogan27. And if you're just joining for the very first time, what I do on this show is I share things from the archives. We look at them. It's fun. This is the 100th episode of Archival Adventures. And we've looked at some speculative fiction today. We looked at some lovely watercolors of fungus. We were just looking at literal, cuttings of trees that I thought I would just quickly pull out again and, show, but boy, that wasn't as easy as I thought. Yeah, wild red cherry. Only I had a light box with light shining through the back of it because they're paper thin so that you can see through and sort of see how they glow. But I've already moved to this, so not pulling out the light box again at this moment. But, so our focus today is we're just revisiting some of the materials, or some of the collections that people really liked over the last 100 episodes, and looking at new things that we haven't looked at before. Why not both, depending on the size of the jar? You remember these from this stream? Yes, we did a whole stream on the wood. We just got to, I previously did an entire month on patent medicine, traditional medicine, and home remedies. And so I have pulled a volume here. This volume dates from, the oldest entries in it are 1665. The newest entries are around 1704. And it is a receipt and home remedy book. This one is new since we did the stream previously, and I've marked a couple of recipes that I was going to look at. So, just gonna go ahead and the front cover is no longer attached, but it's an old volume. Also, I should, before I forget again, because I've forgotten twice already, let me just do this real quick before I forget once more, and just note that if you happen to be in the Blacksburg area around mid-March, there is an open house coming up focused on women's stories in the archives as part of the Virginia Tech Women's Month activities. That is on March 16th from 5:15 to 7:30. You can stop by the library, stop into the Special Collections reading room, and there will be materials related to women's history out on display. And then a couple of weeks after that, on April 1st, and no, I am not joking, on April the 1st, which is the 75th anniversary of the founding of Virginia Tech's radio station, WUVT. The reading room will also have an open house featuring historical materials about WUVT on that Saturday, April 1st. Time TBD, but probably 2 to 4 at minimum. I still have to figure that out. But there's also a good chance that if you're not physically here in town, you can just drop in right here on twitch.tv/VTUL Studios or twitch.tv/Rogan27. Because if I can figure out how to do some mobile streaming, I'm going to stream while I'm monitoring the reading room and we have those materials on display. And we'll just, chat about the exhibit while entertaining alumni who used to be involved with the radio station. So that's coming up April 1st. All right. I've planned and planned and planned. I just need to confirm the logistics will work. But I think they will. So Thankfully, this book has been fully transcribed, and I just have to find the actual entry for what is on this page. But feel free to try to read it for yourself. Also, I should also note, just so many I should also notes, right? I should also note you should watch the library's blogs and social media, or the Special Collections blog and social media on March 14th, because there's going to be some Pi Day content. All right, the things that caught my eye here, starting in the center of the page on the right, a receipt for the scurvy. I'm trying to figure out which one it is. I thought I had it. No, sorry, starting at the top of the page. Haha! Just because I prepared for today instead of encountering things at random does not mean that I know what's going on. All right. At the top, a drink for the scurvy. Dr. Willis, his receipt. So this is Dr. Willis's receipt to address scurvy given to Mrs. Burnham. Actually, Detective Zen, I don't know if you were confused at all or if you were making a joke. I'm guessing joke, but worth mentioning, receipt, R-E-C-E-I-P-T, in English used to more commonly be used for recipe, like the word that we say today, recipe. Receipt had that meaning in the past, in addition to the meaning that we still use receipt for today, as like a listing of the goods that you purchased. And a medical receipt is today known as a prescription, and that is part of why the RX, which I know I completely drew that backwards because I drew it forwards to me. So the RX symbol that we see used to represent a prescription is referencing in history when it was referred to as a receipt. So take scurvy grass, watercresses, brookline, tangy sage, lavender cotton, of each 3 good handfuls, the peel of 9 oranges and 3 lemons, snails in the shells, a quart, washed and dried in a cloth of long paper, half an ounce, beaten, chop all together very well. Then put to 6 pints of good white wine and still it all together. And when it is stilled all out, mix it all together, the first and the last. Then put it all into the still again, and so still it over again, that the last may be as good as the first. Take 6 spoonfuls of this every morning. and at 4 of the clock in the afternoon. And that is Dr. Willis's receipt to address the scurvy. Below that is a receipt for the scurvy. Again, just gonna note, don't try this at home. If you are experiencing scurvy yourself, please consult a medical professional who can best guide you on how to treat it. A receipt for the scurvy: boil scurry grass in a posset made with white wine and drink it in the morning and at 4 in the afternoon. That is first and last. Pretty similar, except this one is just the scurvy grass, whereas the other one was scurvy grass, watercress, brookline, tangy sage, lavender cotton, 9 orange peels, 3 lemons, snails in their shells, a quart washed and dried in a cloth. So those are the snails. A quart of snails in their shells. Half an ounce of long paper beaten, and then you chop everything together and put it in 6 pints of white wine. A bit of a difference there. One of them has a heck ton of ingredients, and the other one's just scurvy grass. If you're suffering from scurvy, make sure your ship's captain doesn't use all your oranges to make a fancy cake. This is probably also advisable, and if you are uncertain what the result of that might be, I will direct you to a pirate show on HBO. All right. Then next we have a special remedy against the plague. A drink for the plague. Again, this volume is from the 1660s through the 1700s. So, for the plague. A special remedy for against the plague, a drink for the plague. It is good for the whoever was transcribing could not figure this word out, and I don't immediately see what it is. It is, let's see, it is good for the question mark and small port, I think it is. But they have P-O-E-E question mark. Maybe poor, P-O-E-R, maybe poet, small poet. P-O-E-T, uncertain. So we're not sure who it's good for, but we know it's for the plague. Take 3 pints of another word that they just have question marks for, so I thought I would look at it. Maybe you all can solve it. I'm going to zoom in, actually, and give you all a better look at the unknown word right here. 3 pints of I'm not certain. And I don't have time to puzzle over it right now. 3 pints of something, and boil in in it a handful of rue and a handful of sage, till 1 pint be boiled away. Then strain it and set it over the fire again. I pushed slightly too far. Elixir, I have the transcript. I'm literally reading from the transcript, and it has question marks. Those words that I couldn't figure out, there are question marks in the transcript. But I am looking at the transcript in my hand. No, I love the intent. You want it to be marmalade, but there aren't enough letters. Also, how boiling something in marmalade seems odd. Not to say that nobody would do it, but let's see, where did we leave off? Right, set it over the fire again, and put there 2 long pepper, ginger, and nutmegs, all beaten into a fine powder. Of all those, an ounce. Then set it boil a while, and afterward take it from the fire and put there in an ounce of good something. An ounce of good question mark. An ounce of good, it's literally right above my head. I think it's lard. And then another word. I think it says an ounce of good lard, boil a quarter of a pint of aquavitae. Keep this above all other medicines, and if you think yourself infected, take morning and evening a spoonful at a time, lukewarm, if not twice a week, in a nut, half spoonful. Attempting to boil any of Rue's crew, not likely to lead you to living long and prospering. Boil a Commander Rue and an Ensign Sage probably would not go over well, Detective said, but I love that your brain went there, to the characters, not to boiling them. So a cure for the plague, if you can just figure out what it says. Also, probably not effective. The last one we're going to look at here, if I can just find the page real quick, is, oh, there are other ones in here. Mr. Jackson's Plague Water. Ooh, that one uses betony. I don't know what it is. And gillyflowers? No, I will not get distracted. I selected things beforehand. This is number 17. It's just really interesting, and I've never seen this one before because we just got it. All right, we are at number 17, and what we're going to look at is this entry right here. For a woman's after pains, take a great handful of balm, a small handful of chamomile, and a little maiden hyssop and a little maiden hyssop. Boil thin in a quart of clear posset, ? Drink, then grate a nutmeg, and take a little bit of fresh butter and sweeten it with black sugar, and drink a good draught as of often as she can. And then at the very bottom of the page, a special remedy against after pains, and give by Dr. Kress's wife, approved by Dr. Tams's wife. Take so much rosin, finely powdered as will lie upon a groat. Mix it well in a pennyworth of metrodare, Mettridare. I'm not familiar with that ingredient, but that is what the other recipe said to boil the stuff in for the plague recipe. It was that, I've never heard of that word before, but seeing it spelled out, that is definitely what it said on the other page. Then put both into either Dr. Stevens's water or plague water 1 spoonful and give it first after delivery. Posset was a drink, citrus juice, cream, and sugar. Thank you, Just Here for Coffee. I did not know that. What is Mettridare? Mettridare. I almost typed all of those letters correctly. And it does not come up. I have no idea what it is. Mettridare. That is what is written here, and that is what was written here. No, it isn't. I thought it was, but it just looks like it starts with an M, and I thought that's what it was because of it. But also, I'm not 100% certain that that's an M. It could be OFFA, but it doesn't make any sense because OFFALIND just doesn't make sense. Yeah, I don't know. No idea. But since I don't know, and it absolutely will not cure you of the plague, despite claiming to be a cure for the plague, I'm going to move on to the next item. Once again, do not take medical advice from this stream, and do not try to treat yourself with any of the recipes that we saw in 15th century cookbooks. Okay. Oh, I'm going to have to put that back in. It came out. Do that in a minute. Well, I'm no fun. Well, you know. All right, I've got Marjorie Rhodes Townsend. Does anybody remember her? NASA pioneer Marjorie Rhodes Townsend. First woman to earn an engineering degree at the George Washington University, receiving her Bachelor of Electrical Engineering in 1951. After 8 years at the Naval Research Laboratory, she moved to the National Aeronautics and Space Administration's Goddard Space Flight Center in 1959, where she worked until 1980. Townsend was project manager for 3 small astronomy satellites, SAS 1966-75, and for the Applications Explorer missions 1975-76, and later had responsibility for all advanced mission planning for future scientific and applications satellites, as well as NOAA's meteorological satellites. Her papers focus on her professional career in aerospace engineering and at NASA, and include some of her later consulting work, consisting of correspondence, meeting notes, project documents, and publications that Townsend wrote or that relate to her work. There are also materials about her numerous speaking engagements and articles about her professional accomplishments. When we did the streams about her, we looked at some of her speeches, but we also looked at the pictures of her being awarded a title in Italy, and the models, the scale models of the satellites that there were model kits of in the collection. Today I'm going to glance at a couple of things. We'll read just a little bit here of Spacecraft Systems Designed for the 1980s, a seminar given at Iowa State University in February of 1979. I'm I'm looking forward to the decade of the 80s to be a very exciting one. NASA was in its infancy during the 60s. It took its very first steps, albeit they were on the moon. Then the 70s carried us into adolescence. We found we couldn't have everything we wanted just by asking for it. We were bounded by many new constraints, not only money limitations, but also the number of people who could work on our programs. As we approach the 80s, we do so as a maturing agency working with a maturing technology, and we will have a handful of new tools to work with. That is part of the excitement. While you are here gathering knowledge as your toolbox, NASA will have the Space Shuttle, the Manned Maneuvering Unit, a tracking and data relay satellite system, and the use of the Department of Defense's Global Positioning System as new toys to play with. That doesn't even include the changes in computer technology which, with our increased knowledge of what is out there, will permit us to do major computations on board the spacecraft instead of bringing buckets of raw data bits down to the ground before we process them into information. A slight contradiction to the use of the latest technology will be an effort to lower costs by using standard components. I just love the way this talks about the future of spacecraft, and it's looking forward to the 1980s, and it's well done. Be Open Sky, hi! Thank you so much for the resubscription. Welcome back for your third month. 3 months. Take a look at some of these space systems and see what changes we can expect in our spacecraft systems designs as a result of their arrival on the scene. First, the shuttle. At first, we thought it would provide a taxi service, as do the expendable launch vehicles we are used to. But it really doesn't make sense to push all that mass where one small spacecraft wants to go. So we have started to look at it as a subway system with a few well-defined stops. Another way of putting it is the shuttle is the first stage of the booster required to get us into space. It parks at about 300 kilometers at altitude with a choice of inclinations. It may also schedule a stop at I didn't read the degrees, so that sentence didn't make sense. But it is more flexible than a subway. If we lease the whole thing as sort of charter flight, we can go anywhere it is physically able to fly. So we do have a taxi service capability if we want to pay taxi fares instead of subway fares. That's interesting to hear that perspective. I am not going to read the entire speech because I do not have time to. But also included with the speech, it's a presentation on space technology for the 80s, and you get not just a guy in a spacesuit, but someone in a spacesuit with the propulsion pack on, because that is the jetpack. Now, Zen, I can't read that fast. It seemed like an interesting start to a speech. I'm curious to look at more of it, and I may try to get it digitized and online. If I do, then that information will make its way into the YouTube description. I had also pulled stuff. She consulted on a film called Beyond Our Sun, produced by NASA in 1972, but I haven't been able to find a copy of the film anywhere. And it's 4 folders worth of information, and we have a bunch of other stuff to try and glance at in the less than a minute that I have left. So we're just gonna skip ahead a little bit here. I do have some stuff from BP Blasingame. We'll just glance at it and nod. Blasingame had a lot of technical manuals for NASA stuff, including some stuff about the Apollo 12. And I remember us looking into that. We have this internal note, Project Apollo, optical tracking of the Apollo 12 spacecraft. Prepared by Indulis Sauletis, approved by William Swingle, and approved Robert Chilton. NASA Manned Spacecraft Center, Houston, Texas, February 17, 1970. The facilities of the Guidance and Control Observatory, Manned Spacecraft Center, were used to track the Apollo 12 spacecraft during the translunar contact mission phases. The spacecraft was observed to a maximum range of 120,000 nautical miles. The task objectives, task preparations, equipment, and test results are described. Over 250 photographs of the spacecraft were obtained, and a water dump was observed. So it's a report about the Apollo 12 mission, and I don't know much about Apollo 12, so I don't really know what to look for in it, myself personally. I know a lot more about Apollo 11 than Apollo 12. Interesting. There is an inserted memorandum here, April 15th, 1970, to the Deputy Chief Guidance and Control Division from EG5 Chief Technology Development Branch. Subject, optical tracking of the Apollo 13 mission during translunar coast. The Guidance and Control Observatory was operated April 11, 12, and 13 for optical tracking of the Apollo 13 LMCSM and the SIVB booster. Significant events observed with the 16th telescope/image orthicon system were summarized as follows. Acquired the module, obtained 60 video frames showing the spacecraft and several SLA panels, monitored a water dump, acquired and stored frames showing the SIVB booster, monitored the module to a range of about 50,000 nautical miles, attempted to acquire at 120,000 with no success, acquired the booster, took some pictures, still couldn't find the spacecraft. The 13th, again, could not find the spacecraft. Mission Control Center data was 24 hours out of date, acquired the booster and recorded 20 photos at 175,000 nautical miles. 9:09:51 p.m. noticed bright, small, disc-like object east and south of SIVB image. 9:10, 5 persons present watched disk increase in size and decrease in brightness. At this time, no one knew what the object was. 9:12, moved observatory dome. 9:13, recorded 3 TV frames showing the remnants of the disk image, which by this time had spread considerably and was just barely visible. 9:17, object no longer visible. 9:20, recorded a 20-frame sequence showing the SIVB. This sequence was time-hacked and contains 2 frames showing a bright target at the spacecraft location. 9:24, continued monitoring of the SIVB. April 14th, attempted to monitor the impact of the SIVB on the lunar surface with no success, primarily due to early twilight. On the day following the April 13 observation, it was determined that the bright, dark image observed was in fact the result of the accidental dumping of over 300 pounds of liquid oxygen by the CSM. The image was in precisely the correct location with respect to the SIVB and occurred at the proper time as shown below. 9:07, crew estimate of leakage start. 9:09, image appears on TV. 9:10, Lovell reports trouble. 9:14, record frames from TV. 9:17, image disappears. 9:23, second image appears for 10 seconds. Photographs of most of the events described are enclosed with this memo, The above description of our observations of the O2 incident have been reported to the failure investigation team now working in Building 45. Interesting. It is a photocopy. It's not the original, so the signature is not. But it is 12 landed on the moon after getting struck by lightning twice on the way out of the atmosphere. So that'd be interesting to search for. This memo inserted into the Apollo 12 report is about Apollo 13 and is literally a moment-by-moment observational notations of like what they were seeing, documenting the accidental release of a bunch of the oxygen that the astronauts were supposed to breathe on the Apollo 13. I didn't know that was in there. I don't think anybody knew that was in there. I'm going to have to make a note of that in the finding aid, that there is a memo about Apollo 13 documented, like, that memo is in there. I put it back where it was, but now that I know it's there, we can mention it on the finding aid, so other people might be able to find it. Let's see. Then I had stuff from Melvin Hough, who is the flight safety data inspector, as well as like the aerospace engineering guy that we've looked at a couple of times, and we'll probably have a full additional stream about him. I pulled a bunch of folders. We don't have time for basically any of them, but this one is all about the Bell Aircobra, which looks like that. So he was a test pilot. I'm just gonna let us glance at them. And not a good ride. Apparently the Aircobra, Melvin did not find it to be a good ride. So, sorry. I'm afraid I cannot endorse the Aircobra. Thankfully, we are not sponsored by Bell Aircraft and not paid to like advertise the Aircobra at all, because apparently not a good ride. Oh, what else? What else did I pull that we really don't have time to look at? If you remember, we had a stream about a geology professor here who was amazingly good at just writing and read part of a thing called Whiskey for the Cat, which was the start of a novel. And so I also pulled a couple of things of his. This one is called Décollement, Folding and Thrusting in the Appalachians. This is actual geology, not a novel. But the title was entertaining. The Décollement, or Abschirrung idea, born in Europe and applied so succinctly to the structure of the Jura, and later by others, appears to be literally taking over in Appalachian geology. Despite an ever-growing wave of enthusiasm for and wider application of the Décollement hypothesis as a working concept in the Appalachian region, most Appalachian geologists, at least until recently, have entertained the idea for structural entities of relatively local extent. For example, the Cumberland Overthrust block of southwestern Virginia, eastern Kentucky, and adjacent portions of the northwest side of the folded Appalachians of East Tennessee. It was, therefore, a rather severe jolt to read a recent paper by John Dennison and others, which recorded the following statements in the abstract of that report. Would a famous geologist be a rock star? Just here for coffee? I think yes, and that definitely deserves points. A décollement underlies all the ridge and valley and much of the Appalachian Plateau provinces. And at Allegheny Front, the décollement is jumping from the Waynesboro Shaley Horizon to the Martinsburg Shale Horizon beneath the Stony River syncline. The Kittle Lick Fault is interpreted as a branch of the décollement. The amazing thing about this statement is the absence of any qualifying words such as possibly, perhaps, maybe, or I think that. When I read the above quotation, I began to realize that it was now imperative that someone speak out against confusing a hypothetical idea with fact. If this recent account had been the only instance of excessive overstatement, I probably would have laughed away the error as a mischievous lapsus. But things have been building up to this confusion of hypothesis with fact and Appalachian structural interpretations for a number of years. Knowing that American geologists seem to be overly inclined to embrace transient fads in working toward the truth, this recent overstatement did not surprise me very much, except for the fact that it was recorded by a stratigrapher rather than a structural geologist. It caused me to recall a stimulating dialogue between two imaginary geologists in a recent paper by M.G. Rutten. The verbal exchange he records was between a professor of geology and one of his students who had become a working coal geologist. A pertinent part of the exchange is recorded as follows. I'm going to stop there because I don't know how far it goes. And despite the fact that this is an actual academic paper / speech about geology, it's still just as entertaining as his fiction, which is frustrating and amazing. And if anybody ever stops by and wants to read the amazing prose of Byron Nelson Cooper, I definitely recommend it. The collection is stored in offsite storage, though, so you'll want to contact us ahead of time to have it delivered to the reading room. The last thing we're going to look at, I'm not even going to pull out the architectural drawings from Vera Jansoni. I just don't have time, and sadly, I would have to clear a bunch of stuff away so that I could unroll them. The last thing we're going to look at, though, is apparently people liked the American Egg Board collection, which was the one with all of the egg advertising pamphlets. And if you recall, that was in sort of a flat box with just all of the stuff piled in. And when we were working with it, I mentioned that it needed some work. And so I rehoused it into folders and updated the finding aid. So now the American Egg Board collection, which apparently was popular, sadly, Detective Zen, we cannot send those boxes to your reading desk in Australia. Just to the reading room here in Blacksburg. But if there was something specific you wanted, we could potentially get scans to you. But so we've got the basics. And we've got breakfast and brunch. And these were all these pamphlets. If you remember this blast off, eat a good breakfast pamphlet that is very much a 90s thing. And if you recall, as I was showing things on stream, we kept running into things that were sticky. So everywhere when I was rehousing this stuff, everywhere that I came across something sticky, I did my best to remove it. But, so it's clear to me that this was part of an exhibit. And this dieting title card that I kept, and it's in the dieting folder, has a pushpin hole in it. So it was attached to something, a corkboard or something like that, via a pushpin. But then there was some sort of adhesive on the back of this pamphlet up here at the top. You can sort of see a little discoloration. And so this one, there's a little bit of paper torn away at the very top where presumably there was adhesive there as well. So these items were presumably arrayed by attaching them to some sort of board below the title card. I don't know. I think maybe the finding aid says for sure what that exhibit was. Actually, no, because I think I added the previously used as part of an exhibit because it was clear to me that they had been, but I don't know when or who put the exhibit together or what the purpose was. But between, if I was unable to get all the sticky off, now there's archival quality paper separating that pamphlet from the one behind it, because it still has some adhesive on the front from where that pamphlet used to be stuck to it. And we saw that on stream when we were looking at the collection. We saw that how everything was still stuck together. And so this is what the collection looks like now. And see, this one, still sticky. It was sticking to the folder. Because I don't have any way to get the adhesive off without destroying the items. So the adhesive stays and things might just stick to the paper that is separating them. But I never really planned to spend a lot of time with this and revisiting this collection. It did get good viewership numbers, so I included it. But the main thrust of what I wanted to share was just showing you, like, this is what it looks like now, where it's much more clean. You win this round, tape. I think just from when I was going through and doing like the processing, I don't think it was tape. I think what it was, if you've ever seen that really, really thin foam tape that's double-sided sticky and is this thin layer of just foam, that's what was used to attach these to something. Often just really small little, like a corner cut off of it or something like that. But that adhesive that's used on that foam tape does not come off easily, especially off of paper. So, yeah. Anywho, we're gonna call it there. I had a ton of fun. I wish that I had more time to celebrate the 100th episode. There was so much, and there were so many good collections to revisit. If you happen to swing by the archives someday, if you're ever in the area, I know some of you, it might be a possibility. There will be some Archival Adventures buttons that can be picked up for free in the bin in the reading room. There are, if you follow the finding aid link, the graphics that were used to create these buttons that you can just like grab from that Google Doc and download, I think. If not, reach out to me and I can make those available so people can have them if you want them. But they're just some graphics celebrating the 100th episode, and there will be Archival Adventures buttons in future. I'm gonna go ahead and set up a raid because I got like 10 minutes before it's time to go home and I have stuff to take down. So, thank you. I did not need to know whatever that was. I will note just one last reminder. Coming up mid-March, there is an open house if you're in the Blacksburg area and care to stop by the reading room. That is coming up on the 16th of March. And look for April 1st. I haven't worked out times yet, or even if it's going to be possible, I'm going to try and stream from an open house that's happening here that Saturday. I'm trying to look and see who is available for us to raid. You know, this is our 100th episode. We are being excited and having a fun time. I'm going to set us up to raid Stephen Joyce because Stephen's amazing, has stopped by and sat around and chat a few times, and a number of librarians and archivists watch his streams. So yeah, we're gonna raid over to Stephen Joyce, who, having had internet troubles for quite some time, appears to be able to stream today. So we're gonna pop in over there and say hello. He is playing a vampire video game today. So I'm just gonna set up that raid. We'll pop in over there, we'll say hello. And hopefully you all enjoy the rest of your day. Coming up next week, I have a collection about a computer animated film that was made with Fortran using punch cards. So stop on back next Wednesday to look at that collection with me. I think it's fascinating and I'm excited to see what all's in it. And yeah, I hope that I see you all for more archival adventures in the future. Until I do, keep exploring history, everybody.